Seneca, in his Letters from a Stoic, suggests that we should set aside two burdens: the fear of what the future may hold and the memories of past pains. The former has not yet affected us, and the latter can no longer harm us. For the Stoics, regret is when we allow past events to interfere too much with our present, especially when we focus on things outside our control, such as resisting what life presents us. Marcus Aurelius argued that we should be content with what we have and accept the present as it is. Regret occurs when we do the opposite. We wish things were different, we do not accept reality as it is, and we fail to recognize that both successes and mistakes are part of our story. Errors are not always the only way to learn in life, but we can always learn from them. Seneca said, "We often suffer more in imagination than in reality." He meant that regret is merely a feeling based on our fantasies. We believe that if we had done something differently, made another decision, said something, or stayed quiet, things would be better. Regret is an internal problem that we need to confront and overcome before guilt eats away at our soul. Marcus Aurelius shared a similar mindset and stated that the problem is not what happens around us, but how we perceive those situations. And we can change our way of thinking right now. Your regrets are not about the situation itself but how you see the unmet expectations. Now, it's important to learn to live with this. You need to learn to set aside these egocentric emotions and control the heavier feelings of guilt. This video is a guide to understanding your emotions, learning from the past, and overcoming your biggest regrets. And if this is the first time we're meeting, I want to tell you what those who watch the channel already know: this video reached you because someone liked it before, so help us in this chain. Be the reason this video reaches more people. Like, leave your comment, and share it in the family group. Why do I feel regret? Seneca tells us that life is short and difficult for those who cling to the past, ignore the present, and fear the future. When we do not balance our relationship with the past, we forget to live in the present, and this imbalance plunges us into anxiety and anguish. We all have thought or said, "Live without regret." Every day brings a new meme, a song, a video, or a phrase reminding us of this. But the truth is, we all have regrets and often feel guilt and shame about our past. Those are moments we thought we had overcome, but suddenly they come back and hurt us. This feeling of regret, like a bad taste in the mouth, makes us think about what could have been different or question how we acted. This is something everyone has felt, even when we try to move on and not look back. American author Daniel Pink, known for simplifying complex social science research into easy-to-follow tips, found that over 80% of people experience regrets from time to time. Daniel Pink describes regret as an indispensable emotion, but also states that it can be used positively to transform our lives. If we truly want to improve, we cannot run away from negative feelings nor can we hide them. But how should we handle these emotions? Should we simply accept the despair that regret brings? Samuel Johnson, who created one of the first English dictionaries in the 18th century, shared in his journal reflections on how he failed to fulfill some promises he made to himself. He believed it was important to keep trying to be better, reflecting on his difficulties in order not to repeat the same mistakes. He chose to fight against regret, not to drown in it. The lesson we can take from Johnson is that, although regret is inevitable in life, we can choose how we deal with it. Instead of asking, "Why do I regret?" we should ask ourselves, "How can I overcome this? How do I move forward? And, how can I become a better person because of this?" The Stoics teach us to identify what is within our control as an essential step in developing mental resilience and overcoming regrets. Recognizing that the past cannot be changed is fundamental to moving forward. Sometimes we judge our past, condemning our actions by comparing them to what we know today. "Today I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't act that way." This means that you have learned something, which you possibly didn't know before, justifying your actions. Focus on what you control. A student was upset with his brother's behavior and went to talk to Epictetus, who told him, "Every event has two handles, one by which it can be carried and one by which it cannot. If your brother harms you, do not grasp it by the injustice because this is the handle that cannot lift you. Instead, use the other, that he is your brother, that you were raised together, and then you will have control of the handle that carries. Epictetus. Every problem has two ways to be approached, but we must choose the one we can control. This idea helps us decide what is within our power and what is not, between what we can change and what we must accept. This is one of the most important practices of Stoic philosophy, which, although it seems simple, I always bring up in videos because it is very difficult to put into practice. We can view the past and join our Stoicist journey at Buy Me a Coffee, support with a donation or as a member and have a voice in our community. Every coffee fuels our mission to share wisdom. Be our pillar, make a difference today, in two ways, like the two handles in Epictetus's example, as something that only harms us, which we are ashamed of, or as experiences from which we can draw valuable lessons. When we look back, we should choose the second option, accepting that what has passed, what happened has happened. We should see that we cannot change the past, no matter how much it hurts us or may hurt someone else. Then, what good is regret? Absolutely nothing. Edith Eger, who survived the Holocaust, gave powerful advice on dealing with guilt. If I had known then what I know now, I would have acted differently. That's the end of it, she said. Guilt belongs to the past, and the past is the only thing we cannot change. We often judge our past by what we know today, by the knowledge we acquired after we erred. Regret really helps in our life when we learn from our mistakes and try to act differently in the future. If we just keep punishing ourselves, feeling guilty, judging ourselves, and making the same mistakes, that feeling only serves to pull us down. Seneca advises us to let go of this weight because if we stay stuck in the past, we lose the chance to learn and improve our actions to avoid the same mistakes and fall into regret again. As a society, we often deceive ourselves into thinking that we have control over everything that happens in our life. Everyone believes that by dwelling on the past, somehow we will be able to change what happened. However, we must accept the fact that some things simply cannot be changed. We should understand that some things are under our control and others are not. For example, if you regret cutting your hair, you have options. You can try a new hairstyle, wear something to cover it, or simply wait for it to grow back. You are in control. But if you regret cursing out your boss before leaving a job, you can't take back what was said. You can't undo your words. As Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, and to us as well, remember that neither the past nor the future can control you. Only the present has that power, and even that can be limited if you set limits for yourself. And if your mind tries to convince you that you can't handle it, then it's time to rethink your strength. The past has already happened and needs to be left behind. It's done. We can't stay trapped in our insecurities or dwell on our regrets. We need to learn that what happened is out of our control now, we must let it go. Phil Jackson, the basketball coach during the golden era of the Chicago Bulls, talks about letting go as a painful but necessary step for true transformation. This is the art of acquiescence of the Stoics, accepting things as they are so that they can become what they must be. By accepting that some things are beyond our control, we lessen regrets and desires for different outcomes. In a way, regret is essentially wishing that things had happened the way we wanted. But if we let things take their natural course, it is less likely that we will regret our actions. By accepting that some things are out of our control, we reduce the chance of wanting the outcome to be different. The past is something we can no longer control. We can't change what we've said, what we've done, or how we felt. But we can control the present. We can decide how to grow from our experiences, how we face adversities, and how we use our regrets to our advantage. We control how we act now, and that is what matters. Love your fate. Marcus Aurelius reminds us of our capacity for transformation by saying, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." After understanding what we can control, we must figure out how to react, regardless of whether we control what is happening or not. We need to choose how we behave, how we overcome challenges, and how we move forward. In the first book of his Discourses, Epictetus imagines being about to be executed by Roman guards, finding himself in a situation completely out of his control. Yet, he shows tranquility and wisdom by reflecting on his situation. I must die. But must I die bemoaning? I will be chained, but must I also lament and despair? I may be exiled, but what prevents me from going smiling, calm, and composed? The idea of amor fati, which means to love one's fate, was first spoken by the German philosopher Nietzsche, but this practice existed long before with Epictetus and other Stoic philosophers. Often, through reflection and meditation, the Stoics used this practice to address past traumas and help them achieve a greater sense of inner peace. Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant, said Cleanthes. Amor fati goes beyond merely accepting what happens to us. It means recognizing that not everything needs to be seen in a negative light and that accepting current situations can make us better people. I know everyone thinks they know what's best for themselves, but perhaps life knows what's better for you. It's about being grateful even for cloudy days, understanding that there is always a way out of problems. We all face difficulties. We all get stuck in traffic. We've all had days with slow Wi-Fi or poor cell service, exactly when we need to send that important message, make a payment, or call an Uber. Often, we think these problems are personal, that these difficulties are unique to us, as if the world is conspiring and we cannot prevail. But this could not be further from the truth. Everyone faces obstacles. Everyone stumbles sometimes. Everyone weakens or feels discouraged. As we mentioned at the beginning of the video, there are things in life we cannot control, and these difficulties are among them. When we accept what happens, especially after understanding that many negative things are out of our control, we reach an important point, to love everything life brings us and face each situation with joy and strength. As Robert Greene, author of The 48 Laws of Power, said, accept the fact that all events occur for a reason, and it is possible to see that reason as something positive. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, uses the image of a workshop to explain this idea well. He says, there are thorns on the path, then step aside. I've said enough. Why ponder the existence of annoyance? Such a thought would make you a laughingstock to the true student of nature, just as a carpenter or shoemaker would laugh if you pointed out the sawdust and shavings on the floors of their shops. However, these shopkeepers have trash bins to dispose of it, nature does not. Why stumble on the thorns? Why reflect on the sawdust on the floor? It's simply part of nature. If you can see these obstacles, you can also overcome them. Practicing amor fati also helps us avoid future regrets. By embracing the challenges we face, it is less likely that we will regret the decisions we make, no matter what happens. We can face the future with confidence, conviction, courage, and much more. Amor fati is more than just a mindset, it's a way of life. Bringing this into your life will require time, effort, and sacrifices that probably won't be comfortable. But we must. We must overcome this existential anguish. We must move forward, away from our regrets, and towards our future. Love what has happened to you, who you have become, and how much you have changed. Love your fate, amor fati. Carry this idea with you every day. Write it on a piece of paper, keep it in your pocket as a reminder to treat every moment, no matter how challenging, as something to be embraced, not avoided. Look forward. We must project our thoughts ahead of us at every step and keep in mind all possible eventualities instead of just the usual course of action. Seneca. How good are you at solving problems? At seeing potential situations or problems before they arise and finding solutions before something really happens? Stoicism trains us for life. And often, we carry regrets for not learning and cultivating the ability to solve problems. Seneca said, rehearse them mentally: exile, torture, war, shipwreck. All the terms of our human lot should be before our eyes. This practice, called premeditatio malorum, is one of the oldest and most common practices of Stoic philosophy. Literally meaning, premeditation of evils, the Stoics used this practice to help them prepare for life's inevitable difficulties and to remain calm and confident in turbulent times. The world is not always fair, and things don't always turn out as we want. Not everything that happens in the game is what we trained for. Not everything that happens in life is exactly as we planned. But we shouldn't be surprised or get stuck in the past when things go wrong. If our happiness, self-esteem, or ability to act depends solely on everything going right, each time we try and fail, which will inevitably happen, we will be devastated, feel unhappy, and stop taking risks for fear of disappointment. You will find it much harder to live in the present instead of lingering in the past. You will find it much harder to trust your instincts, and to fight against regret. Instead, it is better to be prepared to accept the outcomes and move forward, trusting the decisions we have made. Booker T. Washington, an influential leader who ran a school with 1,500 students, advised politicians and activists, and traveled the country making speeches, is an incredible example of practicing premeditatio malorum. He began each day hoping for the best but also mentally preparing to face the worst, from fires at the school to harsh criticisms for something he might not even have said. This mindset helped him be ready for any adversity. For example, if a train was delayed, it didn't seem so bad compared to a possible fire at the school. By preparing in this way, Washington not only faced challenges head-on but also shielded himself against regret. By anticipating problems, he reduced the fear of the consequences of his actions, becoming less likely to regret the decisions he made. Similarly, Epictetus used the premeditation of evils even for simple tasks, like taking a bath. He suggested imagining everything that could go wrong in the bath, such as people pushing, splashing water, or even stealing. By doing this, if something unpleasant happened, he could remain calm, remembering that his goal was not just to take a bath but also to maintain his inner peace, regardless of external circumstances. This shows how being mentally prepared for setbacks helps us react better and maintain our tranquility. Practicing premeditatio malorum does not mean focusing on the negative or attracting and expecting bad things to happen. The Stoics used this technique to be more connected with reality, understand their environment, and its potential problems and challenges. For us today, it means stepping out of the pretend life is perfect mindset that we are often influenced to believe on social media. How many perfect marriages are undone overnight? How many declarations of love are made to people who barely speak at home? And people who appear successful but are internally devastated, battling depression. Living in this bubble of superficial positivism, believing that everything will always go exactly as planned, leaves us unprepared for when something goes wrong, and even the slightest obstacles and challenges can knock us down. Practicing premeditatio malorum helps us prepare for the difficulties we will undoubtedly encounter in life. It may be hard to accept, but things won't always happen as we want. Things won't always go our way. Maybe you don't have your dream job yet, maybe you don't live in the best house or drive the most powerful car. However, when we are mentally prepared for life, we are capable of overcoming obstacles and suffer less along the way. This practice gives us the confidence that, regardless of the outcome, we made the best possible choice and thus avoid regret. Final thoughts: do not spoil what you have by desiring what you do not have. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. Epicurus. This quote from Epicurus teaches us the importance of finding satisfaction and gratitude in what we already possess. Do you only feel shame and regret for your past mistakes? That is what you have. Perhaps if you hadn't made those mistakes, you wouldn't have the awareness you have today and might still be repeating the same errors. Do you regret having spent all your time on a job or a relationship that wasn't worth it? That's what you have. Maybe that bad relationship serves as a way for you to reassess your boundaries, to look inward and understand that the recognition, love, and true connection we seek must first arise within ourselves. Often, we build our own mental prisons. We do something wrong, and even after changing our attitude, we continue to punish ourselves for the mistake. Allowing a mistake to dictate the entire course of our life is like punishing ourselves unnecessarily. It's as if we're telling ourselves, since we acted wrongly, we deserve this, we deserve to suffer more. I suffered 8 years in a bad relationship, now, I will suffer 2 more indulging in regret. I had a job for years that overwhelmed me, now, I'm going to burden myself with the regret of having worked there. Regret does not only arise from big mistakes but also from the small slips in daily life. Sometimes we impose suffering even for simple things, for not having completed a household task, for breaking a diet, for missing a deadline. This can create an endless cycle of self-punishment and sadness. We continue feeding, punishing, chastising ourselves. Regret is a conscious and negative emotional reaction to past personal acts and behaviors. It is accompanied by feelings of sadness, shame, embarrassment, depression, annoyance, or guilt. The Stoics believe we should learn from the past, including mistakes, but we should do it in a balanced way, without drowning in the guilt of something that cannot be changed. To overcome regrets, we need to recognize that we cannot change the past. Admitting this is the only way to move forward. We must always remember that the present is the only reality, the only certainty. The present is the only time that truly exists, carrying all the reality of our lives. Valuing the current moment is crucial to living fully and without regrets. Regret everything you can no longer change and do something positive in your life now, because what has already happened is not under your control, but your current actions are. And if you've made it this far, don't forget to reinforce your change or the start of it and comment, gratitude.